Greetings, everyone. My name is Eugene Mangundu, and I'm here to present to you Natural Science and Health Education for Bes Nsh32. This presentation will prepare you for 2019 exam papers. That's just the name of the subject and the code. And like I said at the beginning, this is to prepare you for April, August, and November examinations. So now let's see what we have here. I always do this at the beginning of each presentation. Why are we doing this presentation? So we want to prepare ourselves for April, August, and November exams. We should also study and answer all questions from previous exam papers. I really want to do this, but then the space I have is very small, so I would rather, what I prefer is you coming through. We set up a meeting, we are given an office or a platform here or a place by Iol, and then we can do our discussion one-on-one. We can do this at least once a month. And of course, you get to meet the tutor and also get my contact details. I'll give them at the end of the presentation. I'll give my phone number, I'll give my email address, and then we get in touch. Please, I'm advising you that before you sit for that exam, please see me so we can iron out all the mistakes. Please, 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 I'm urging you. I would like also to teach you how to answer multiple choice questions, but for the space that we have here, which is not enough, it will not allow it, but rather we can do this during the face-to-face. And also, the last one says to set up face-to-face meeting with a tutor if possible. And I know you can make this possible because I want you to pass. All right. These are the things that I expect you to remember, or I expect you to do in the exam or in the assignments. You should be able to analyze the classification of oxides, whether it's acidic, basic, or neutral, or amphoteric. Oxides that are acidic, these are oxides that are made from nonmetals like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, because when they dissolve in water, they give us the acid rain. So these are the guys that are responsible for acid rain. Acidic oxide, or oxides that are made from nonmetals, they are the one responsible for acid rain. So they are acidic oxide. And then we have basic oxides. These are oxides formed by metals: calcium oxide, magnesium oxide, lithium hydroxide. So these are the ones that are basic. And then we have neutral oxides like aluminum oxide. They are neutral because sometimes they behave as if they're acidic or basic. And also, you must be able to explain how to prepare, separate, and also purify salts. Remember, you prepare salts by the process of neutralization. So you must be able to know, if I want to prepare a soluble salt or an insoluble salt, which salts should I mix together? That you should be able to do. And I know in your study guide, this is well stipulated there. And also explain the rules of solubility of salts, which salts are soluble. For instance, you can say all the chlorides are soluble except, all the carbonates are soluble except. So these things you must be able to remember them. And then propose a method of making a salt from suitable starting materials. For instance, I want to make calcium sulfate. So let's say I want to make calcium sulfate. Calcium sulfate. So this is the salt I want to produce. So what do I need? It's either I can use calcium as a metal, I can use calcium oxide, calcium hydroxide, or I can even use calcium carbonate. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 options to choose from for calcium only. And then for the sulfate, that's when we use sulfuric. I need sulfuric acid for that because it's only sulfuric that gives me a sulfate. All right. So calcium, I can either take calcium as a metal, calcium oxide, calcium hydroxide, calcium carbonate, or any of the three the above. But for sulfate, I must use sulfuric acid. Next slide. This, when I'm marking the exams and also the assignments, I've noticed that most students have a problem with these things. That's why I decided to give the title again and again. You must do this again and again until you get it right. So that's why during those meetings, those face-to-face meetings, I'll emphasize on these things. Use the symbols of elements and write the formula of compounds. Very important. I know from NSH4 we also do this, but I have noticed that there are people that are still struggling with the formulas of compounds just because they don't want to remember the polyatomic ions, or they can't remember the polyatomic ion, or they can't remember that if I'm a metal, what charge do I form? If I'm a non-metal, what charge do I form? Bullet number 2 says, use the numbers of atoms and deduce the name and the formula of simple compounds. So I can give you in words, for example, lithium hydroxide. You must be able to come up with the formula of that compound. For as long as you know your periodic table, you know your polyatomic ions, you will not go wrong. Construct word equations and also balance chemical equations. As you can see, that is a bullet that I have highlighted. Of all the bullets, that is the one that I have, because I have noticed that students have a major problems with that. So that's why when we meet face to face, we are going to do that again and again. Define the relative atomic mass. Define the relative formula mass of molecule or a chemical compound. All right, so what is a relative atomic mass? That is none other than the number, the bigger number in the periodic table. So for instance, if in our periodic table we have carbon 612, so this number is the relative atomic mass. Some people simply say it's AR, small r, or AR, so that's the relative atomic mass. And then we have the relative formula mass, also known as MR. For instance, I want you to find the MR of calcium sulfate. All right, the MR of calcium sulfate. So what you need to do, you should remember the AR of calcium, which is 40, the AR of sulfur, which is 32, and then the AR of oxygen, which is 16, but then times 4. Why times 4? Because there are 4 atoms of oxygen, 1 atom of sulfur, 1 atom of oxygen. So this one we don't have to multiply by anything because it's only 1 each. And this is going to be 64. So these are the numbers that we need to add up for us to get the MR of calcium sulfate. So if we sum those up, so we have 40, we add 32, we add 64, we get 8 here, and then 13. So that's the MR of calcium sulfate. All right. Given the relevant information, deduce the balance equation of a chemical reaction. That word deduce simply means come up with. So you are given information, you must come up with. It simply means come up with. Deduce means come up with. Then the second last says calculate stoichiometric reacting masses and volume of gases. So you are given the balanced chemical equation, you are given the starting mass, so you must find the moles and also the gases. So you must be able to do this. So all you need to remember is the formulas to calculate these things. For instance, If you want to find the moles, we use our famous formula, the one that says number of moles is equal to the mass divided by the molar mass. Very important formula. If you can remember that, you get everything in the exam. The other one says, this is for compounds, solutions, and then gases. Number of moles is equal to volume divided by 24 dm3 per mole. So those two formulas will set you free. And when we meet up, we are going to do more examples on this. Calculate stoichiometric reacting masses and volume of solutions. Okay, you must be able to do this, please. If you can't, face-to-face will do. And more general expectations: describe paper chromatography and interpret chromatograms. So meaning that you'll be given a paper chromatography, you must be able to interpret it, and that most of the time it comes in the multiple choice questions. Identify pure substances by distinct melting and boiling points. Describe the fractional distillation of petroleum. How do we obtain diesel, petrol, kerosene, methane from crude oil? We use the process or the method of fractional distillation, and you must be able to remember which one boils off first, which one boils off last. Discuss the uses of fractions of petroleum like petrol, paraffin, diesel, lubricants, and bitumen. So these things you must know. These are things that you need to remember. These are facts. It's either it's up or down. It's not something that you need to apply. Okay, it's like you are remembering the colors of the rainbow. It's something that you need to know. All right, and then the next one says, the next slide, more general expectations. Identify and use of lab equipments, very important. I'm also emphasizing this in 2.2 and NSH 2.2. You must be able to convert from Celsius to Kelvin to Fahrenheit, backwards, Fahrenheit, Kelvin, Celsius. You must be able to do that. You must be able to use this to deduce or to come up with the structure of an atom or ions from given proton and neutron numbers, or from electronic configuration or electron arrangement of atoms. So what does it mean? So you are given that aluminium 1327. So you are given the electronic configuration Al 283. So 3 shells, 1, 2, 3 shells, and group 3, meaning that the last shell has 3 electrons and shows that aluminium is in group 3. Aluminium is in period 1, 2, 3, a group 3 in your periodic table. Define isotopes, a catalyst, a homologous series, alloys. You must be able to define these things. Next slide. We have more general expectations here. Describe a chemical test for water. Very, very important. Describe a chemical test for water, a chemical test for hydrogen, a test for oxygen gas, a test for carbon dioxide. These things you must know. Discuss the major uses of water in industry. If you happen to get some of these things in the exam, just consider them as free marks, because these are things that you do every day, like major uses of water. Water is used as a solvent, is used for watering, is used for cleaning, for cooling purposes. These are free marks because some of these things you work with them. Describe the composition of clean air or dry air. What makes up a clean air? Because air is a mixture of different gases: oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen gases, and also gases from group 8. Explain or describe the uses of oxygen in hospitals and also for welding. So those are the major uses of oxygen used by patients that are struggling to breathe on their own, and also used for welding. Explain how filtration and chlorination can be used to purify water. So when you want to prepare pure water or clean water, there are methods or there are steps that you need to know. Filtration, chlorination. Filtration allows you to remove the things like plastic bags, stones, sand, but then chlorination allows you to remove the germs because it kills the germs in the water. So you must be able to remember these steps. If I give you a diagram that shows how water is being purified, you must be able to identify that at this stage it's filtration, at this stage it's chlorination. All right, next slide. More general expectations. Explain the sources of air pollutants. Evaluate the dangers of common pollutants in the air to buildings and to people. Remember, when you're talking about acidic oxides, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, these guys are the ones responsible for acid rain, and acid rain is doing a lot of damages to our building, to our environment. And also evaluate the dangers of dumping. Describe the common pollutants in the air. So this one is almost like the first bullet. And then the last one, discuss the effect of dangerous chemicals on the environment. All right, so all these things you must be able to know. You should know them. Go through your study guide. Most of these things are facts. It's something that you need to know. It's not something that you need to apply. All right, and then again and again, draw the structures of hydrocarbons: methane, ethane, ethane, ethanol, ethanoic acid, ethyl, ethanoate. So you must be able to draw these diagrams, or you must be able to draw these structures or the skeletons of these structures. State the type of compound present given a chemical name ending with an ane or an ene or or ionic. So for instance, I will give you propanol. Propanol. So you must be able to tell me that this is an alcohol, but not an acid, because it ends with an or. So that's how you remember these things. Analyze the formation of polyethane and ethanol. How do you make alcohol from ethane or alkenes? And also the uses of ethanol. Where do we use ethanol or alcohol? All right. More things to remember, or more things to note. Analyze the basic chemistry of esters and the uses of esters. Analyze the properties of alkanes. Analyze the properties of alkenes. Describe how to manufacture alkenes and hydrogen. How can we make alkenes and how can we produce hydrogen? We need hydrogen as a fuel. Distinguish between saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons from a molecular structure. So meaning that you'll be given two diagrams, one for a saturated and one for an unsaturated. For you to identify which one is saturated, you look at the bonds between the carbon atoms, because the unsaturated hydrocarbons will have double bonds and the saturated one will have a single bond between the carbons. So that's how you distinguish the saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons when you're given the diagrams. And more important tips, apart from your from your study guide and the internet and this setup or this platform, make sure that you have an extra textbook, or you have a website that you can go to and get more information, so that you read further. And when you are reading on this in these textbooks or on this website, make sure that you summarize the main points. Calculation, you need to practice until you understand the formula. So that's why when we meet face to face or one-on-one, we are going to do lots and lots of calculations. So make sure that you set up a meeting with me. I'll give you my number at the end of this presentation so that we can iron out some things that you cannot do on your own, that you cannot understand, that you do not understand in this presentation. And please, please, do not wait for the exams. Start preparing early, at least 2 weeks in advance, because what I get from students is that when they're writing tomorrow, that's the day I'm getting the calls. So as from this year, we are going to have our one-on-one sessions. If it means to travel to Windhoek, to sacrifice for that $500 just to travel to Windhoek for this class, you are going to be grateful for that. Please, don't wait for the exam. Start preparing early. The early the better. Please, I'm urging you. All right, this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for watching and listening, and I hope I will meet you one-on-one, because this is just the tip of an iceberg. If we meet, you are going to learn a lot of things, I'm telling you. All right, so that's my phone number, that's my email address. Get in touch with me as soon as possible. I'm free. I'll make time for you. I prefer not to talk to you over the phone when I'm assisting you. I prefer to you and I face to face. The only way I can help you. Thank you for watching.